Hi, Roman speaking. I come from the southwest of France, from the Pyrenees, a mountain range separating France and Spain.
And I'm Ashraf from Kibera, Nairobi.
We have just published two policy briefs looking at youth perspectives on climate adaptation, one for the French Pyrenees and one for Kibera in Kenya.
They form the basis of our Voices Unheard project and will guide our discussions with policymakers at all levels, from the African Union and European Union to the United Nations and local governments such as Nairobi County.
The policy briefs were shaped by collecting young people's testimonies, the stories of young people experiencing droughts and floods, and the harsh realities of going through a climate disaster.
And their ideas on how to make adaptations work better on the ground. From these voices, we developed key recommendations that we will share with policymakers in the upcoming meetings.
Young people told us their experiences of climate disasters. We engaged with two communities in the French Pyrenees, one struggling with floods and the other struggling with wildfires and droughts. In Luchon, a city in the heart of the Pyrenees, the city was hit by torrential floods 10 years ago. Young people described how houses and streets were submerged under more than 1 meter of water. They told us there had been no anticipation from public authorities, although the flood was predictable, and there was no warnings given to the populations, and therefore people had to improvise and save everything they could. Every year, as snow melts in the springtime, the fear returns. Why? Because since then, nothing has been done by public authorities to better anticipate, prevent, and prepare for the next floods. In Caramani, a small village in the eastern Pyrenees near the Mediterranean Sea, a drought has been hitting the community since 2022, for 3 years. Young people tell us that they're worried for the future of their territory, especially because many local jobs depend on agriculture and wine production. They tell us that if the drought persists, they may be forced to leave.
Young people in Kibera told us that they're living a climate emergency. They described homes swept away, sewage mixing with drinking water, and feeling completely abandoned when floods hit. They said the response is slow, warnings didn't reach them, and they are never asked for their ideas.
There are strong climate adaptation policies and plans in place at the European Union and at the national level. However, these policies do not translate at a local level. The European Commission laid out a vision for a climate resilient society by 2050. However, this vision only exists on paper but not in reality. People that are affected by climate disasters, and especially young people, do not have the chance today to participate in co-shaping climate adaptation measures. This reinforces the feeling that the state is completely indifferent to their experiences, their needs, and their futures. In Luchon, the valley is still not included in a national flood forecast and alert system. It means that if a flood were to happen today, people would not be warned. And even when public authorities know a flood is imminent, there's a fundamental issue of risk not being communicated. Last time, public authorities knew a flood was imminent at 6 p.m., but they only warned local population through a press release at 9 a.m. the following morning. In Caramani, drought management only relies on water restrictions, but there are no projects in place to secure water access by restoring the soils, by collecting and recycling used waters, or by supporting farmers shift their agricultural practices and adapt to a hotter and drier climate.
Policies are failing because they're designed top-down. The billions in climate finance never reach the grassroots. Youth are excluded from decision-making tables. It's a system of neglect, not inclusion.
The policy brief lays out a series of recommendations expressed by young people in the Pyrenees. Their central point is that climate resilience must be built together with local communities, especially with young people. Their main ask is the creation of citizen committees on climate and ecology, where young people could help shape how their community responds to floods and droughts. In Luchon, the focus is to better prevent floods by lowering water level in mountain lakes before snowmelt, by restoring riverbanks and floodplains, and by better warning local populations when a flood is about to strike with real-time alert tools. In Karamani, the priority is to keep water in the landscape by restoring soils and the ecosystems, by supporting climate-resilient agriculture, by expanding water collection and reuse, and promoting water awareness in school and in the villages.
Our recommendations are clear. Fund and train youths, create youth climate hubs and COPs to lead drainage activities and waste management activities. Give them a seat at the table. Mandate 30% youth representation in all climate committees. Provide direct cash. Establish a county climate youth fund with simple, accessible microgrants. And formalize their roles. The bottom line, stop ignoring the experts who live the crisis every day. If there was one key takeaway, youth, especially from marginalized and vulnerable communities, must be part of climate policy discussions. Youth must be represented at the policy level.
And policies shaped at the international level must reach the local level, with concrete measures and funding for projects.
Climate policies must be built through inclusive consultations, with the participation of local populations and youth in co-shaping adaptation measures.
Because only when global policies meet local realities and youth shape them can adaptation truly work.